Okay, so the original title of this talk is Empowering DevOps, Harnessing Documentation as Code for Automated Talk Generation. When I was about to copy paste it here in the slide, it didn't even fit in the slide, so I put automated talk generation. I will stay with that. My name is Jose Miguel Izquierdo, rather be called Josemi, short for Jose and Miguel. I've had a lot of issues traveling with these two names, so I'd rather be called Josemi. I'm a professional services, or I'm working at Juniper Networks. I've been a professional services consultant for the first 10 years, where I was working as a network engineer, I was working as a software engineer, and as a support guy. I believe I'm not any of these three, to be honest, but somehow I've been playing the three roles all together, so I'm kind of a blend of the three of them, which has helped me to become a technical marketing engineer. I'm based in Madrid, Spain, in the EMEA region, and there you got the LinkedIn details in case you want to reach me out. I'm going to speak today about the challenges of manual documentation and the motivations that drove me to sort of propose or to find a solution to overcome those challenges, right? The solution I'm proposing, well, you will see it now in a few minutes. I'm using some tools, and I'm going to give some examples of these tools. And at the end of the talk, what we are going to see is two real use cases with this automated talk generation philosophy. Manual documentation challenges. Well, first of all, as Scott said, most of the people don't like to do it, right? It's something that it often falls back at the bottom of the to-do list of any engineer, any consultant. They leave it for the last thing to do. Sometimes when you start writing, it's already outdated because it's something that has been already changed by someone else, so it's a nightmare. But it's something that at the end of the day, it's going to benefit you, it's going to benefit your future you, it's going to help your team as well. So I think it's very, very useful, right? When you start when you need to work on something else and you need to come back to the project that you have been working on a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, or even years ago, like this one, it's very easy to rescue it for the trunk of memories and see where you were at that moment in time. You don't need to start from scratch again with all the things that you were doing. For me, it's easy to remember just by reading some things that I wrote, where I was, and running some of the commands I was there, and I was like, oh, okay, it still works, right? So, fine. But I agree with you, and probably with most of you here, that it's a very time-consuming process, right? Well, automated talk generation doesn't mean you don't need to write your documentation. You'll need to do it, but you can reuse it many, many times, right? So, time-consuming process will not be that much. It's an invest, right? It's also prone to human errors, of course. If you are writing it on your own, you commit typos, you might have some issues. Sometimes even there are people which will be editing your own documents. They will change the format, the font size, many things because they don't like it. They prefer to have it, put it on the left or with a different font or something else. At the end of the day, after a few iterations, the original document that you wrote, it's not exactly the same as you had. And it's even hard to have some tracking control over that, because if someone disables the tracking changes there, you are screwed, right? So I would like to throw all this away and try to start from scratch, something that starts with the standardization of the process of this generating documentation, right? In order to start with the documentation, why don't we make it also part of the process of our projects, right? We are going to treat it as document as code is the word or how it would be called. We are treating our documentation as we are treating our code. That means we are making it part of the process of having it validated automatically, generating artifacts out of the documentation there, validating some changes, having it under version control, and these sort of things. Easily to have it under version control because we are going to use some text-based tools. Change management as well. We will see some tools that will allow us to have some conversation about what it has been done, who did what and when, these sort of things. And we are going to try to use it reusable, so we don't need to have big pieces of configuration. We can have small chunks of it, and we can reuse it along all the different projects or other different documents or something like that. And also the integration with third-party systems. We will see in the next slides what I mean with that. The solution I'm proposing is following basically the philosophy as the Linux tools, right? I'm going to use some tools, but I want to focus on just one single thing of each tool. I want them to do one thing, but we are going to combine them together to enhance the final solution. The list of tools that you have here, yeah, maybe they're a little bit long now and you're a little bit overwhelmed. Don't worry. I would recommend to start with the ones from the left-hand side. The right-hand side ones, probably you have something already in your department, organizations, in your company that you can swap by, or you don't even need to do it. I'm having them here because what I'm going to show you had these tools, and I'm going to show you the example of these tools. But you can start your journey, as we said, with the first step, which will be only the ones on the left, and even if we can focus on something even less or less tools, Markdown and Jinja 2 templates. Actually, there was a workshop here on Monday. I think it was Claudia, the one who was delivering that workshop, about this topic, right? So it was something that you guys are interested. I hope at least there are 50, 60 people who are attending here, that you will learn something new, that it will also help you to consolidate those things that you have learned there, and hopefully giving you some new examples, right? I'm not saying anything about AI. It's something I'm working on right now because we can use it to enhance our documentation and to add something else, but this is out of the scope of this talk, right? So that would be next steps maybe. First tool, Markdown. Who has heard about Markdown here? Yeah, many people, and probably some of you who didn't raise your hand have read Markdown. Most of the document, most of the repositories are written in Markdown. The README files are written in Markdown, and it's a very lightweight markup language. Markup language like XML, HTML, LaTeX as well. It's a language that by following some rules, encoding it with some format, we are able to define or redefine the format, the structure, and the presentation of that document, right? It's very simple. It's easy to read, easy to write. You just need to know a few rules, a few tricks. We will see them later in the examples, but it's very simple. It's like writing in a typesetting, in a typewriter as a few years ago, right? And it's easily portable, right? We are going to take advantage of this to be able to port or to convert it to PDF and Word documents, right? And it works with almost any text editor. I haven't seen any text editor which doesn't support Markdown. If we have a look at one of the examples here, we can see that, it has some headings, line 1, 2, and 3. You can have even more headings there. It has some links. You go inserted clickable links there. You can reference local files. You can attach pictures. You can create lists, sorted and unsorted lists. You can have also text, format your text, having bold, italic, strike through. You can have to-do lists as well. You can have tables with the text in the table being aligned on the left, on the right, in the center, so many, many different options there. The next tool is Mermaid. Who has heard about Mermaid before? Wow. Yeah, I didn't expect that much people who heard about it. Well, what is Mermaid? Mermaid is a tool that I like to put in the family of diagrams as code tools, right? What do I mean by that? Well, diagrams as code is sort of tools that are plain-based tools that by following just a few rules, some syntax, some keywords, you can get some visuals, some diagrams built in already in the tool that are very, very nice. It is a dynamic tool, so you can update your diagrams just by typing new things there in the code. It doesn't need to redraw the whole thing from scratch, so it's just being updated on the fly. Easy to learn, easy to adopt, text plain-based, which is something very, very important for the solution I'm proposing here. And you got a bunch of resources there to to have a look at, because it's really nice. You got a bunch of live editors and examples, and for more documentation, you can go to the URL there. As an example, this is a diagram generated with Mermaid. The code on the left-hand side is the one that generates this diagram. So you can see there all the devices that are managed in my network. I have modified the look and feel as well. It can be customized. If not, it has its default presentation. But look at these 19 lines of code that you can get a diagram, really nice diagram out of these lines, right? The next tool, PlanUML. Again, have you heard about it? No? 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay, well, I thought this was more popular than the other one, but yeah. Okay, it's another tool that falls into the diagrams as code tools or family. This is older. It has been there for many years. Well, many years, I don't know exactly, but probably older than Mermaid. It's again simple, it's dynamic as well, so same thing, following some rules, some key words, you're able to generate some diagrams. The amount of diagrams is slightly bigger than Mermaid. They are different, and you can combine them. Well, not combining. I mean, the thing is, there are some diagrams in PlanUML that are not in Mermaid, and so on. So you can choose from them. There are other ones that they are overlapped. So it's a matter of which one you like, right? Once again, plain text-based, so version control friendly. A lot of editors there supporting it, and you can go and research on the UI for all these things. One example, here we got a sequence diagram about a CTP process of a network device explaining the part of the DHCP request, right? It is something that if you look at the code, these 20, 30 lines of code that you got there, it's a little bit difficult to read, but the diagram generated is really, really nice, right? One image is worth 1,000 words here. Maybe not 1,000 words, but we will see that with a template, we can have as many words as we want, right? Next tool, I'm not even asking if you have heard about it. We have seen already here a lot of things about Jinja 2, the workshop, and I have seen this morning many talks speaking about this. Templating engine, renderization of variables and some logic. The good thing or the best thing of this is you can generate any text artifact. So based the renderization of text data with PlanUML will generate some more text artifacts, right? What we are going to use later with some other tools to generate this documentation. Very efficient, reusable. We got some examples here, right? This is a configuration of a Junos device in set mode for some of the interfaces, a for loop. We got here the same thing, but in XML format, another plain text format for the configuration. But the best thing is if we combine it with those other tools, with PlanUML, for example, we can get something really, really nice. Let's see at the example. This is a diagram, sequence diagram of a migration night, right? We got there the actor who did the changes. We got there some nodes that were involved in the migration. We got there some timestamps, some of the things that were done, and everything is being explained in that diagram, right? I don't mean you to read all these things. Maybe it's difficult, so if you want, I can zoom in, and only on the last few or last lines of the document, we can see that there are some variables there. You see on the top right, this is the template. We got some Ansible variables there, or Jinja variables, better said, that are going to be rendered by our orchestrator. In this case, it's going to be Ansible, but it can be a Python script or whatever. We're going to gather all this data. We're pulling in this data from third-party systems, and we're going to put them in our template. We're going to render that template with that data, and we're going to generate these diagrams. One thing to bear in mind is when you have data collected from third-party devices, you need to know how much data you have, how you are doing, or maybe if you're playing in a lab environment, or if you're in a production environment, it can be, or the amount of data is going to be very, very different, right? In this case, we got our data, we got our template on the left-hand side, and the code that is being generated, right? We got one actor and two nodes. The diagram that has been generated, you got it there on the right-hand side. What if we have 5 different devices? In this case, the code is rendered in a, well, it will be a little bit bigger, and the diagram, it's going to be a little bit different. If we are doing it in production, for example, or with 15 different nodes, the diagram is going to be different. We need to bear that in mind when we are going to automate our documentation, right? Or maybe we can run some tests, or at least be aware of all the data that we are going to use to build our diagrams. This is just something to bear in mind. What if we move to another example? We combine Jinja with Mermaid. What we are going to get here, for example, is this quadrant chart. Imagine you got a Python script which is connecting to some of the devices in your network, extracting some specific KPIs. In this case, we got the resource usage and the throughput. We normalize that data, and we use it with this template, 9 lines of code there. So we are generating the quadrant chart with the performance of all the devices in my network. Really nice, right? We can see how they are doing at the moment we are running this script. If we combine it with Markdown, which is exactly what the workshop was about, the workshop that we spoke before, the one with Claudia, we are going to see some other examples. In this case, we got some, the author, for example, title. We got some sections that can be used to, well, the sections of our documentation. We got some tables with some rows, some items that are going to be inserted in these tables. So at the end of the day, it's something really useful for our documentation, right? And the last but not least, it's to combine it with JSON. Probably there are more documents or many other combinations that you can do. The only one I'm saying is JSON is because in the real use case example that I'm going to speak about later, we were using it with Grafana dashboards, right? We were running migration during the night, and we were monitoring the devices with the Grafana. What happened? Well, every new device that we were, or devices that were involved in the migration night, everything was being monitored across all the devices. It was exactly the same, right? The only thing that was different was the host name and the port involved in that migration night. So why not templatize it? We just got the dashboard in JSON format, got the host name, got the port, and we just generated a template that for every migration night with some input files with all the devices that were going to be migrated there was rendered and generated the dashboard just automatically. Ansible. Well, I'm not going to speak about Ansible here. I'm not even asking again if you have heard about it, because you have. Only things to bear in mind: plain text, YAML, extensible. There are a bunch of modules for network operating systems. So yeah, really useful for our use case. And some examples, well, we are using it in this case to gather data from third-party systems. In this case, it's a Jenkins automation server. We are gathering the reports in XML format, and in the two last tasks of this playbook, we are parsing the data and extracting specific fields of that results, right? We are assigning it to the variables that we are going to render later, for example, in this planned UML diagram. The next step, or the next example, is, for example, generating these templates. We got the templates that are going to be rendered with all the variables that Ansible has in that specific moment, and at the end of the day, we are assembling, for example, all the templates together into a single file to be pushed in a network device, right? Another tool that you are aware of, you all have, or most of you have heard about it, is Docker. Containerization platform. It's, you can use images already available there, or you can even create your own to be able to, well, put together all the tools that you need with all the requisites, with all the integration with other tools in an isolated environment. With that, you can grant that all the times, every time you run the same Docker image, you will get the same results. It's portable, efficient, and that's why DevOps teams are using it. You run, or you make it a consistent result every time you run the Docker command, right? Well, these were the tools I would recommend to start with. Whatever we have said now, it was, well, and all the other ones are open source tools, but for me, these are the basic ones, right? In this case, Jenkins, it's an automation server. There are other automation servers. Maybe you don't need to use this, but I was using it. You can run your own scripts if you want. There are some Jenkins CI, Travis CI automation servers, so other flavors that you can reuse there. But in my case, we were using Jenkins. It's an automation server, widely used, very easy for being the interface when you are in a migration night and you just want someone to click one button and not doing anything else. No giving room for human errors, right? You just need to click the button whenever you want, and it will trigger the job you want. It's easily customizable. There are a bunch of plugins there, 1,800 last time I checked, that you can integrate with Slack, with GitLab, Robot Framework that we have seen before as well, many others. You define your jobs, your pipelines, or whatever, and it's very, very easy. Git, of course, it's the tool for keeping control or track changes of all these plain text tools, right? This is the one that is going to take care of all these changes in all these files, plain text files. Easily to compare changes, to create different branches so you can work in parallel. You are not impacting other guys or other members of your team or whatever. You can commit your your documentation or your files, all your changes. You can create the whole story of your project, of your repository. By adding some notes, you can say why you did this change, who did it, or when it was done, right? You can see all this information just using Git. And even more, if you combine it with version control systems, it will be even easier because you got the UI to see all these things. It will enable also the change management. So, for example, the documentation can be approved or reviewed by someone else. You can have discussions about the things that you need to change, if anything needs to be updated, or these sort of things. So makes things very, very easy to collaborate. It integrates seamlessly with the Git repo. It's widely used with the DevOps teams as well. And as we see here, it has seamless integration with Markdown. Most of the repos or the README files that you are reading, sometimes they are written in Markdown and being hosted in one of these version control systems. The last two tools that we have here, for me, this is the cherry on top of the cake. It might be, or they might be, a little bit more difficult, but this is the cherry on top of the cake, right? The last step. When you got this one under control as well, you are able to generate a really, really nice documentation, and we will see why. Pandoc, right? Pandoc is a universal document converter. You can use it to convert documents from one format to another one. In our case, we are going to use it to convert from Markdown to Word or PDF. I prefer PDF, so nobody can touch it or edit it later, but it can be done to Word and all the things, HTML, whatever. There is a bunch of different formats that can be converted to and from. You can see it there on the documentation as well, and it's very flexible and customizable, right? If we combine it with the latest one, with the LaTeX, the artifacts that you generate are really, really high quality technical documents, right? And the best thing is you can configure all these type settings in a global way. You can configure the layout of your documentation, you can configure the spacing, alignment, fonts, text, table of contents, many, many things, right? So, well, we get our shiny PDF file. With this one, we're going to get a really shiny PDF file, and we will see why. So, you want to see how it all comes together? Okay. Let's start. Very first use case. For me, this use case is simple, or much simpler than the second one. And I want to, or I rather call it a static documentation. What do I mean by static? Well, it's the documents that we are going to generate with this use case are mainly documents that are going to be the same all the time. For example, most simple use case, generate some lab guides for your workshops or whatever, customized per user, right? So you need to generate the user one with the password, with this IP and whatever. So it's going to be very easy to generate this for 20 different users. Or we want to have something for an HLD, high level description, right? HLD, LLD, low level description for any project, right? It's going to have many, many things in common to all the different projects, but obviously it's going to be with some small details, right? Maybe some pictures, customer name, I don't know, for example, some sections, but many of them are going to be repeated, right? If we focus on what we are going to have here, the workflow, how we are building it, we are going to start with a Jinja 2 template based in Markdown, and it might have some code blocks or some configuration as well, whatever, depending on how you want to split it in chunks. And we're going to have these graphs, as I said. You can create them with diagrams as code tools. You can have your own diagrams there, or you can even have your own pictures generated with, I don't know, Photoshop or whatever, Draw.io, or with some PowerPoint, whatever. You can have some static pictures there, and using Ansible to gather that data. But the data here is coming from the Ansible inventory. Ansible inventory, it has some static values, so the host's file, which is defining all the different hosts that you might have used with some when you want to connect to other devices. In this case, it can be our customers, or it can be our projects, or it can be, I don't know, release notes for a specific product. It can be the users of our lab, many, many things, right? And this inventory is going to have different variables in our static inventory. We're going to use that data, and it's going to be rendered by Ansible in an automated way. Why? Because when we got everything ready in our project, we commit it into our repository, right? And it will be triggered with a pipeline. So once has created a merge request or a pull request, depending on the version control system you're using it, you can review it, and it's going to generate some artifacts. These artifacts, here we can see one of these pipelines. So we got our Ansible Docker container, which is pulling the data from this Jinja 2 template based in Markdown. It's gathering some of these diagrams that has been mentioned before, some of the images, and it's going to include them all inside the template, generating a Markdown document. This Markdown document, it's the input for the next stage of the pipeline. It's going to be gathered by our Pandoc and LaTeX container, and it's going to convert it to our Shiny PDF. This Shiny PDF, it's the artifact. We can download it, we can review it, and we can publish it or share it with whoever needs to have it, right? How does the document look like? Well, the document is something like this. We got a cover page. In this case, it's a Juniper technical document look and feel, but you can change it, of course. It can be customized. You got here, you got some variables, you got the cover page there, you got some table of contents, you got chapter 1, you got the text, you got some tables, you got some code blocks with some configuration, you got some pictures here. This is a hard-coded picture or a predefined picture there with, I don't know, the network for our project, our lab, whatever. And we can even include some diagrams. In this case, this is a planned UML diagram for timing, right? There is some issues there, some timing that we want to explain, and we are using this specific diagram, right? Second real-world use case, and the one that I'm most proud of is for a migration night. I would like you to picture yourself in a migration night. Most of you, or at least a few of you, have done migration nights, 3 in the morning, running some configuration changes, some pre-tests, some post-checks, or pre-test or pre-checks, some post-checks in an automated way, right? We are already in AutoCon 2, so we know that we need to automate these things, no manual things. So we are gathering or generating these reports. We are saving, for example, some of the operational commands in files, and then at the end of the migration, everything went fine. We need to write a document or an email or whatever about the migration, right? All the adrenaline is down. You are already, tired, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and you need to start typing things. Wow, it's a nightmare. Why not automating it? Well, let's do it. Basically, the same workflow. We have our Jinja templates with our based in Markdown. We have graphs, in this case, dynamic graphs. We're going to see how we can combine them. We saw an example before, but we can combine them together with the data and the dynamic graphs of Mermaid and PlanUML. We are going to integrate it with third-party systems as well. So we are going to take a screenshot automatically of a Grafana dashboard, and we are going to gather data from third-party systems like Robot Framework, for example, as we have seen before. And the artifacts that... Is it okay? Yes. Cool, thanks. And we are doing all these things in a semi-automated way. Why do I mean by semi-automated way, or why semi-automated way? Well, in this case, we need some or certain conditions to be met before running this, right? We need to run the pre-checks, we need to run the post-checks, we need to make sure that our dashboard is ready and it has been monitoring what we want, and eventually somebody needs to trigger this job, right? It's semi-automated. My team and myself, we call it semi-automated because it was myself who triggered that job. But yeah, just, What did we do? Well, we started with the pre-checks. We started with some Python Docker containers with Robot Framework on it. We ran it the pre-checks in some vendor, another vendor. We stored the artifacts, the operational commands. Robot Framework provides you with some reports, some logs as well. So we use them for attaching them in our documentation, right? It was our Ansible Docker container who was going to the robot framework. It was taking them, all the command outputs, all the reports, everything. It was using some of these templates, Mermaid, Markdown, and Plan UML, and it was gathering also a screenshot of the Grafana dashboard and combining it all together to generate the Markdown file. This Markdown file, once again, was the input of the second step, where it was generating our shiny PDF file. The shiny PDF file was put it in an email automatically and sent to all the stakeholders in the migration line. Documentation, once again, we got it there, some cover page, table of contents, chapter 1, chapter 2, we got our mermaid diagrams. Here, for example, the amount of ports that has been migrated and the ones that are still to be migrated. There is a bunch of diagrams that we could have used here. Sequence diagram, in this case from Plan UML, so we are reusing both. Everything was explained in this diagram. We could see who did what, when, what was the result, and everything. So once again, an image is worth 1,000 words. An image is worth 1,000 words. There is our Grafana dashboard. So we took a screenshot of the last, for example, 2 hours of the migration, where all the changes that we wanted to see, that we were monitoring. We had the robot framework report. We got the console output of all the commands, the operational commands there, and you can even add some pictures out of, external pictures or whatever you want to take from there. So as a summary, I would like you to try to identify your use case. As it was said this morning, you might have it in front of your eyes. Take the opportunity, try to use it, spend some time on it, find if it's repeatable, if what you are looking for instead is a consistent look and feel. So you need to select your tools. Let's start with the ones from the left-hand side. You don't need to be a coding expert, I would say. And then define your integrations, okay? For the end, I just want to, give you a small exercise. You are almost potential experts now in generating automated documentation, so I would like you to try to render that template with that data in your head. I'm going to give you 2-3 more seconds, because this is all the things that I've been doing for this talk. There you go. This is the code being generated, so all the things that I've been working on. I would like to give a special thanks to a colleague that I was working on since the day one of this project, my colleague Frank Reimer from Germany, and to all of you. Thank you very much for your time. I've got a demo. So I can show you in the Juniper booth later in case anyone is interested. And if you don't mind, you can rate the talk as well. I will appreciate it.
Hi, great presentation. With using Mermaid or Plant UML, did you hit any problems where the generated diagrams weren't very usable or weren't very readable? And if so, how did you resolve those?
We have had some, of course. It's not like every time it works. Sometimes there is a value which is missing, so you can use default values to see them later. And we have been testing them many, many times, right? So at the end of the day, you have them under control. But yeah, sometimes the document was having something wrong. It was saying like image was not generated or something like that. So yeah. So
the question I had was more so whether the diagram became too complex and needed a human touch or a designer touch, to move things around so that it looked better. Did you hit that?
I cannot listen to it. You're saying if the diagram is becoming more and more complex?
Yeah, if the diagram became too complex and became unreadable.
It can, yeah. If you have like 100 devices, of course, you'll need to find a way to group those devices maybe and create a diagram in smaller chunks or something like that. So yeah, but this is a part of the test that you need to do and see if everything makes sense when you generate this. Sometimes you have so many devices that all of them are overlapping and you don't even see the numbers, right? So maybe it's better to do it per family device. You got your firewalls, your routers, your switches, something like that. You need to overcome or to try to come up with a solution for that. Yeah. I mean, the diagrams, Mermaid, for example, in this pie chart, it's even doing the maths for you, for the percentages, right? But they are not as smart as, if they have to put all the things together, or if they have, like in a pie chart, I don't know, 75 different things, it's going to be very, very hard, right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.